Okay, Ann here. And a while back, I went on a little sketch session at a local botanical gardens. It was a rainy and gloomy day, and I did some pretty quick work. Maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, just real loose, and gouache, my little travel gouache palette, did the scene. So now I'm taking that, I have back at home, and I'm going back and just kind of sprucing it up a little bit, doing the things that I didn't have time to do on location, and using some of the materials that I did not pull out there on location. So using some Neocolor IIs here, just kind of adding mainly some little bit more detail, some highlights, and some shadows. So kind of increasing the contrast, defining things a little bit better, making just some little adjustments. So taking this quick scene and just kind of doing a little bit of touch-ups on it. I'm working in a purchased Meeden Accordian fold watercolor sketchbook. It's not the super best quality, but it's pretty inexpensive, and it's not as huge. It doesn't have as many panels as some of them does, so it's more accessible. I feel a little more like taking the plunge. The ones that are too nice or too large are kind of hard for me to get started in, where this was the perfect size for this outing. And so that's one thing I really like about it. If you watch for them on sale, they are under $10, and I've seen them for as low as like seven something. So just watch for those. Whenever they are on sale, I usually get a couple to have on hand, ready for some little art outing like this. It's a nice defined amount of space to work on. So having fun with that. I'm adding in some more darker colors here, because one of the things I really like in a piece is to have some strong value contrast. Almost always I try to push that a little bit and get a little bit stronger value. I'm not trying to be too exacting in this. I want to keep it kind of loose, but I do want to increase that value shift. This scene is kind of a continuous scene as I walked through the botanical gardens. They had a greenhouse, they had this little patio area, and then as I go on down the path, some of the more scenes. So it's not actually, this was right next to this, right next to this. I'm just representing it that way in this book. So it's more like the feel and the idea and some of the things I saw in the garden all connected together in this little accordion fold book. I have some strategies that I use in order to not try to get too detailed, to keep things kind of loose. Here I'm using the dropper from the acrylic ink bottle to use that instead of a paintbrush or pen, because I have a little less control over the marks, and I think it makes more interesting marks and keeps a little bit of that kind of scribbly look that it gives. And so that's one thing I'm doing. I also have a one of those Chinese calligraphy paintbrushes. They're like real inexpensive. I think they're hog hair maybe. They don't have much body to them. They're kind of limp and mushy feeling as you use them, and that definitely, I can't have a whole lot of fine detail with those, and so that just kind of helps me keep things loosened up as well. And this, I also like to spritz with water just a little bit. You can barely see that there, but spritzing that wet material with some water just kind of helps it run and bleed in ways that I'm not totally in control of. Sometimes in a location like this, I kind of feel a little overwhelmed with the amount of green, And so I really kind of feel the need to add a variety of greens so everything isn't, the same type of green. So I have some cooler greens, some warmer greens, and that variety I think helps keep those the large amount of green feeling a little more interesting. I'm also using colored pencil and Neocolor crayons in this piece. So my very favorite colored pencil is Luminance. I use some other brands as well, but this is a ash violet, I believe is the color name, and I really like it because I use it as a gray, but it's a gray with a little bit of warmth and color to it. And I'm right now just kind of hinting at the stones. I want this to not look like a flat surface, but like the stones that it was actually made of, like the paving stones. And then the Neocolor set that I have up there, the Neocolor II, is the Lush set from the 50th anniversary collection. I didn't get very many, though. I got 2 sets of those because they didn't have that many new colors in them. But this set is a handy color scheme to take out and about. I think I will replace some of the colors. There's some that are so close together, and I think there was no pink or orange or peachy type color in that set, and I felt like that was kind of missing. So I think I'll do a little bit of adjustments to the colors that are in there for taking out and about, so that I have a little more complete range in my little tin, so that I can just take that one tin and have what I need. It was a very overcast day, so I'm kind of working on that sky a little bit more to get that grayness built up in there. Along with the white gouache that I'm using, I'm also using a White Nights granulating color, and it's a beautiful color. It's one that my daughter brought me home from a trip and gifted me, and I really love it and am hoping to get some more of these. This idea of painting on location and then touching up later is one that I sometimes do in my travel journals. I get it quickly down, get the feel, the sense of the place down quickly, and then if I have time, which I don't always, but later that night or the next morning back in the room, I can go back and do the little touch-ups needed, and that has worked well in my travel journaling. Again, I don't always have the time to do that. I've gotten things pretty juicy, so I'm going to take a moment to dry things down a bit before I continue on, so that I can continue to use some other media on there. I also want to flip to the next panel here soon, so need to dry things down a bit. Otherwise, I have been working on it pretty wet. That's another way that I keep things kind of loose, because they tend to kind of bleed together. And so I guess that's another tip for staying loose. Now I've opened up to the next section. I really like that about these accordion folds. You can kind of just open however much you want to deal with at any given time. I am keeping the first section that I worked on open, so that I can kind of maintain some continuity as I move across that fold into the next area, because I do want to feel kind of the whole purpose of the accordion fold is to feel like there's kind of this flow across all the spreads, like it's one unified piece of art clear across the whole length. So I'm kind of using the same materials, the same colors, the same techniques, just to keep that continuity across the way. Of course, when I worked on it there at the Botanical Gardens, the part that I already had done, I kind of spread out the whole thing and was working across it very loose, very, very quickly with my gouache, using my gouache more like watercolor. I'm going to play some music for a bit here. If you want to continue to watch, and I'll pop back in with some comments here and there later. Now I am pulling out a more detailed brush along with that White Nights Mountain Broom watercolor because I still want to define those paving stones a little bit more. So bringing in some detail there to get those sketched. I sketched them in with colored pencil. You can't even see that in the video, but I'm kind of following that to just add some hints of it with some paint. Now I'm ready to flip on to that next section and folding up the first one so that I don't have too much to deal with, but always keeping the previous section open so that I can, again, maintain that continuity across the whole spread. This is the last section of this little accordion fold. So there's only 6 panels or 6 pages, which makes it feel very doable. Of course, if you so choose, you can use the other side as well, which has a little bit more. So I actually did the short side because of how it's assembled. Because I knew that was about right for the time I had. I had a short amount of time on this location, and so having the option to do this smaller page spread was quite nice. In this section, there's a little bit more sky showing, and so I can really focus on getting that feeling of the kind of cloudy, overcast, rainy sort of day that it was. And so I'm spending a little bit more time thinking about how I want the sky to look. The sky is definitely really a contrast with the bright flowers and bright greenery of the day. Like everything was still quite beautiful, but the sky was definitely very overcast. So I feel like that's kind of an interesting contrast, especially on this section. Now I'm bringing in some soft pastel just to add some accents, highlights, a little bit of texture to that, adding in some little bright flowers. I love the way soft pastel covers over acrylic and watercolor and gouache and all of those materials, and the texture of them, the softness of them, they're just a pleasure to use. I will say that I usually seal the piece if I've used these, just so they don't transfer or brush off or anything like that. You can also use water on top of them to kind of help seal them in. You see me drying some of those wet areas again now. There was a little bridge back here kind of in the distance that I'm trying to define a bit with a colored pencil back here in this kind of corner of the garden. And just an interesting little feature there, but I think I'm about to call it done. Just taking kind of a last look here and double check. Doing a bit of reshaping of this tree and adding some other branches in that kind of got lost in the whole process. There was this one specific tree that was kind of a feature tree that I have in mind as I'm looking at this, and I want it to really stand out. It was this huge tree with lots of branches and it was really cool, and so I kind of want this to be that tree. Okay, I'm calling this done. There's definitely more things I could do on it, and but I'm happy enough with it and ready to move on to something else. So thanks for watching. See you next time.